school?
Old school.
I would say I'm new school, but I like old school people.
Oh, you like old people.
I like old school people.
Old school, because the new school wouldn't be who they are if it wasn't for the old school.
I'm old school with new school
Want to give it to him?
vibes.
What does that mean?
You good?
Because I'm young at heart.
I'm proud to be old school.
Old school's old and boring. I think new school just has a lot more swag to it.
Anything about me new school is my swag.
I feel like the new generation is more open-minded.
like more aware of different topics and like social issues.
I like the newer generation better than the old generation.
Wait, when were you born?
2003.
Dang, you're a baby.
My teenage daughters tease me sometimes because I'm old school.
My kids have taught me the new slang. The top one I can think of off the top of my head is sus. That is so sus.
Are you sus?
Sometimes.
What's some new slang?
It's just not giving. The vibes are off.
People say that's cap, like it's a lie.
Sleep.
What's I'm sleep?
Sleep is like you're crazy and dumb.
Are you old school or new school?
I'm old school because I love 90s basketball. I'm the MJ fan.
I do like the old, like Michael Jordan, like Kobe Bryant.
Well, I know all the current players. I like my Tyler Hero. I like my Curry.
Stephen Curry.
Steph Curry came out. Everybody wants to shoot the three now.
Do you play basketball?
Of course.
How has basketball changed over the years?
Old school has a lot of fundamentals. New school has a little more flash and athleticism. It's a lot more three-point shots in today's game than it was in the old school game.
Everybody's for a highlight play now.
It's old school, you know, you have the pivot, you got the pro hop, you got the jump stop. I have an old school style. My friends call me Unk when I play on the court. I'm mostly down in the post hooking, drop stepping, all that.
I'm new school. I know I just like highlights, I'm flashy. I just got a lot of excitement to my game.
But honestly, there is no such thing as old school, new school. It's just the school we live in.
Do you remember old phrases versus new phrases on the courts?
The give and go or the pick and roll. Whereas like the new school, you might just say, you know, throw that dime.
What is throw that dime?
Throw that dime is basically to get an assist.
Old school is like, if you can shoot real good, they might say you have a burner. You have a burner now, they might be like, oh, you got a clip or you got a wet.
That's wet.
All right, I got a wet shot. Y'all, you know I can ball. No, I mean I really can't, but I thought I would try the new slang anyway. So we are talking about like the old school versus the new school. And one of the statements that I like, the guy said is like, there really is no old, there really is no new, it's just a school. And so how many of y'all know that in order to have new school, you got to have the old school? Like half of what y'all are wearing and your like sense of style all came from the old school. Like some of the stuff y'all are wearing, I wore like in 7th grade and like junior high or like different things. So my question to you is one more important than the other? Is the old school or is the new school more important? What do y'all think? Which one? Throw it out there. He said it kind of balances out. Anybody over here? Are y'all old school or new school or both? If you are new school, throw your hand up. Okay? If you are old school, throw your hand up. Nobody? If you don't know, put your hand up. Okay, what about, are y'all a combination of both? Okay? All right, let's try over here. Y'all new school, raise your hand. Okay? Old school, raise your hand. Or I'm both. I would say I'm both. I'm both. Can anybody in this room tell me what era did bell bottoms start? Like people start wearing bell bottoms. This 70s. Can anybody tell me the era where the big chain? Actually, like I'm dating myself. So there was an era where wearing your clothes backwards was like a thing. And like, you know, like the 2-strand twist that y'all have, like people are having their hair. I used to have 2-strand twists. Some of y'all got dreads. Some of y'all got that. That actually started with a group. Now, like that, I'm actually going back. Have y'all ever heard of the group Crisscross? Okay, yeah. Crisscross to make you, come on. Like, am I that old? But Crisscross, they used to have actually a version of their hair like 2-strand twists. Now that I think about it, I don't know if y'all remember. It was like all crazy and stuff. Or like the high top fade, or the things like, you know, you get designs and all of that kind of stuff. And then it also depends on the region of where you live at. So we are talking about kicking it back old school. So you're like, Minister Erica, what does this have to do with anything? So we are going to start taking you back this month, like back to the Bible, back to like stories in the Bible. And those stories, are hundreds of years old, but the reality is they are practical for today. So, like, although that's old school, I mean, like, ancient. Like, I mean, even older than me and some of our leaders, like, way back. Like, the information in the Bible, it still applies to your life today. And guess what? Have you heard the saying, there's nothing new under the what? There's nothing new. You're not inventing anything new. Your problems, your situations are nothing new. There is a solution actually for those things in the Bible. So we're going to kind of go back to the beginning. Today we're going to be talking about back to the beginning, like back to when Adam and Eve. Do any of you guys know the Adam and Eve story? Could you tell me, like, could anybody kind of tell me who was Adam and Eve? They were the first what? Humans to be on the earth. So she's going to tell us a little bit, and then we're going to watch a quick video on that as well. So who is Adam and Eve?
Okay, so God created Adam. He was the first human on earth. And then God created for Adam out of his rib to give him someone to be there for him.
All right. So is everybody familiar with that? Like, nod your head, yes. If you don't know, it's nothing wrong with not knowing. That's why we're going back to old school, so you can see how the world was formed and how things were made and how the first human beings. No, guys, we were not made out of apes. Like, we didn't come from apes. Like, y'all are laughing, but this is what is being taught. Like, God created human beings, and then out of Adam, he created Eve. So check out the video, and we'll talk just a little bit more about it.
The story of the Bible begins in a garden where God and humans live together.
And the biblical authors want us to see this garden as a type of temple. The top is the most sacred place, the Holy of Holies, where God's presence is most intense.
And that's where we find the tree of life. So, what's this tree all about?
Well, it represents God's own life and creative power that is made available to others. In fact, God's first command is that humans eat from all of the trees, including this one.
So you're ingesting God's own life. That sounds intense.
Yeah, this meal transforms the one who eats it. Or in the words of the story, it leads to eternal life.
Okay, but on the way to the tree of life, the humans have to pass by another tree called the tree of knowing good and bad.
And God says that eating from this tree will kill you.
How does it do that?
Well, it represents taking the authority to do what is good in your own eyes. And when humans do that,
it leads to broken relationships, violence, and death.
And so here's the thing. Both trees look beautiful, but one of them is a false tree of life.
And the humans take from this false tree of life.
And they're exiled from the garden for good.
Which raises the question, can anyone ever get back to the tree of life?
Well, later on in the story, we meet a man named Moses, and he encounters God in a desert tree on top of a mountain.
Oh, you mean the burning bush, where Moses is told that he's standing on holy ground.
Yeah, it's a plant on a mountain radiating with God's life and power, just like the tree of life.
And God tells Moses, bring your people up to this mountain so we can form a partnership.
And this partnership will force them to make a choice. Will they follow gods of their own making or receive life from the true God?
And in this story, they give their allegiance to an idol.
And it's just the first of many. The story goes on to show generation after generation choosing gods of their own making. And these idols were usually placed on tall hills like beautiful trees. But they're false trees of life that lead the people into self-destruction, exile, and death.
It's like death's grip on us is too strong to resist. Is there any hope?
Well, let's turn now to the story of Jesus. He came to announce that God's eternal life was available once again through him.
So Jesus thinks of himself as the tree of life.
Yes, this is what he meant when he claimed to be the vine that brings God's life into the world.
And Jesus invited people to eat from him.
Yeah, he was inviting people to trust him and be transformed by his life. But Jesus also exposed how corrupt humans are, how much they love false trees of life. And so Jesus presented people with a new choice between life or death.
And this time, they don't just choose death. They also chose to attack the one who sustains all of life.
Yes, Jesus is led up to the top of a hill where he dies upon a tree. The cross is the sad and violent result of humanity's desire to do what is good in our own eyes.
The tree of life has been overcome by the power of death.
Well, it seemed that way. But Jesus said that he was a seed of God's life that would die in the ground, but then grow into a plant that would bear much fruit.
So to defeat death, Jesus went through it.
And now, this new tree of life stands before us all. We can eat from it, but it will mean passing through death like Jesus, allowing our old way of being human to die.
So that a new humanity can grow in its place.
Yes, Jesus said he is the vine and we are his branches. So not only do you eat from this tree, you're invited to become a part of it, helping produce its fruit so that his life and love can spread through us to others.
And so the story of the Bible ends in a new garden,
which is also a kind of temple, with the tree of life at its center, providing healing and life forever to all who choose to eat from it.
All right. So that is kind of a small portion of like the beginning. So one of the things we're going to focus on and I'm going to point out is the two choices. Like the fact that God has given you a choice. And we had one tree which was called what? The tree of life. And then the other one was what? Good and evil. But here's the thing. Both of them were beautiful. That's what they said. Both of them were attractive. Mainly like we can look at that as like the world, like the plan that God has for us, and then the plan that the devil has for us and how he is. The whole story actually goes with God told Adam, the man who he created, he told them not to eat of that tree. Like you can eat of the tree, the tree of life, but you can't pick this tree. God told Adam and Eve that. But then there was a serpent, which it didn't talk about, that tempted Eve to eat, to make it very appealing to her. Oh man, come eat of this tree. But she knew that she should not be eating of the tree. But she was distracted by the words of the serpent, which that serpent then became the devil. So how does this actually relate to you guys? We have choices every single day. We have choices of God's way, and we have choices of the way of the world, which is Satan's way. And even though we know, let's be honest, even though we know we shouldn't be doing things that we're doing, we choose the other option anyways because it's very attractive. It looks very good. But both trees are attractive, right? That's what they said. But one leads to life and one leads to death. So we're talking about the relationship, when they decided to make that decision, the relationship with God was broken. But immediately he put together a plan in place for redemption, which is when he sent his son, and then he became that tree of life, which lives, when we accept him, lives on the inside of him. But my focus is going to be the challenging question that you are going to take back to your small groups. You have a choice. The God that we serve is not a God that's going to force himself on you. He is never going to say, believe in me. He wants you to choose to have a relationship with him. So it already started in the beginning when he gave us the choice between good and evil. So every day, y'all, we're in life. There's always choices to be made. But what choice will you make? Will you trust God and make the right choice and follow his path? Or will you trust what the world is saying? Because the world, let's be honest, I said it in the first service, the world and the thing sometimes they offer is attractive. It is very attractive, but unfortunately, those things lead to destruction. Those things lead to evil. He gave us an example. We're talking about old school versus new school. He gave us the example of what we would deal with in life at the beginning. Number one, he said, I created you and then I gave you a choice. Hey, these two trees are both equally attractive, but one produces life and one produces death. Which one will you choose? And it's very interesting that in the tree of good and evil that there was a serpent, a snake. When y'all see snakes, I'm sorry, I'm going to be honest, I don't like snakes. I kind of like have a little fear of growing up. I grew up on like 3 acres of land back in Michigan, and we would see like they're not the snakes like they are in Georgia. Y'all got like, we have like poisonous snakes out here. Like snakes that can kill you. Do y'all know that? Copperhead, we did not have that in Michigan, so thank God I did not grow up down here because I think I would be even more fearful of snakes. But snakes are just sly. You know, snakes don't even have no feet. They on their belly, and that's all part of the Bible too. That's part of the curse. Originally, the snake actually had feet, and God cursed the snake and said you will crawl on your belly for the rest of your life. So that's, y'all, why actual snakes crawl on their belly. It's from that. So anyways, I found it was interesting that in the bad tree there was a snake that was trying to tempt Eve to do evil things. And to me, that's a good relationship to like God's plan versus the world's plan. The world's plan is constantly sending things your way to entice you, to bring you in, to make the wrong choices. But he's giving you a choice, and he's actually giving you a plan to follow to make the right choice. So my question is to you guys is like, make choices that are based on truth and not trend. So we're talking about old school versus new school. The biblical principles will always remain the same. It don't matter when we get up to 2040. The biblical principles of that you have a choice between good and evil will always remain the same. It don't matter how you package it. It don't matter how you put a bow, how you spin it. Those truths are going to always remain the same. So my challenge for y'all today in your small groups, my question I want y'all to think about and ask each other and have dialect with one another about is, if God's plan never changes, why do we sometimes struggle in trusting his plan? He's saying, I got the plan. The plan for you is for you to prosper, for you to have success. But then there's another choice down here that looks as equally appealing, but he's saying choose life. So that is my question that I want to, what do y'all think about that? If God's plan never changes, why do we sometimes struggle with it? So that is the question that y'all are going to take back to your group. So if you